The story starts with Toru Kirishima, who's a 28-year-old lieutenant for the Sakuragi Yakuza, known as Sakuragi's demon for his brutality. After letting a business meeting descend into a fight, his employer, Kazuhiko Sakuragi, decides to teach him how to handle responsibility and makes Kirishima the guardian for his 7-year-old daughter, Yaeka. Unfortunately, Kirishima has no experience with children, so he takes his frustration out on his long-suffering subordinate, Case Sugihara. While walking Yaeka to school, they are followed by men from the meeting before, but Kirishima is able to beat them easily without Yaeka ever noticing. Eventually, Yaeka becomes noticeably sadder, even when visited by her aunt Kanami. Worried, Kirishima searches her room and finds an invitation for parents to visit the school, where he then realizes that since Kanami has work and Kazuhiko can't be seen by the public, Yaeka actually has no family she can invite to the event. Convinced by Kanami, Kirishima visits the school as her guardian, which cheers her up, and a small act of duty allows her to start being able to talk to him more casually. Eventually, Yaeka wants to give Kazuhiko a picture she drew of their family crest, but is unsure, until Kirishima tells her he was unsure about visiting the school, but is glad he did. Now reassured, Yaeka gives Kazuhiko the picture, making him very happy, which brings Kirishima and Yaeka a little closer together. Later, Kazuhiko reminisces about Yaeka's mother, Miyuki, who's currently sick in the hospital. As Yaeka misses her mother, Kazuhiko plans on visiting Miyuki in the hospital, but it's revealed that two thugs who are pretending to be Kirishima and Sugihara have been causing trouble around the hospital. As such, Kirishima investigates and discovers that the imposters were hired by another Yakuza family. Meanwhile, Yaeka asks Kirishima and Sugihara to attend a fireworks festival where Kirishima wins her a toy rabbit. Later, Kirishima locates the thugs, but due to him worrying about Yaeka, he releases them with just a minor beating. Upon returning home, Kirishima finds her asleep as she tried her best to stay awake until he came home. With a breath of fresh air, Kirishima finds himself liking the idea that someone actually waited for him. Regardless, Kirishima is surprised when Yaeka asks him what his mother was like. Kazuhiko then reveals that Miyuki has been in a coma for years, and eventually he stopped taking Yaeka to visit as she would cry every time. However, Yaeka insists she doesn't want to see Miyuki, so by using simple language, Kirishima is able to convince her that Miyuki loves her so much that she refuses to go to heaven. Yaeka then agrees to visit, and Kirishima remembers that before falling into her coma, Miyuki asked him to take care of both Yaeka and Kazuhiko until she woke up. Eventually, Yaeka learns that Kirishima is called the Sakuragi's demon, but she refuses to believe it, claiming that he's way too nice, and she wants to be exactly like him. Though Kirishima is sure Kazuhiko wouldn't be happy if she did. Fast forward to the hospital, where Yaeka begins to apologize to Miyuki for not visiting her, and she hopes she can wake up soon. She also gives her a picture of everyone, including Kirishima, so she won't be lonely at the hospital. After Yaeka and Kirishima leave to get food, Kazuhiko is able to apologize to Miyuki for being a bad father without her. In the hospital shop, Kirishima spots Toichiro Awa, a former Yakuza member who quit after becoming a parent. Toichiro's 6-year-old son, Koki, develops a crush on Yaeka. Worried, Yaeka claims Kazuhiko isn't mad at Toichiro for leaving, so Toichiro tearfully promises to visit someday. Kanami is then amused as she knows Toichiro trained Kirishima, and that Kirishima has unconsciously followed his parenting style when caring for Yaeka. Returning home, they come across a stray kitten and a girl named Hanada Ayumu. Arunue stops to care for the kitten. As such, Yaeka decides to adopt the kitty and names it Ohaji so Ayumu can return home. Unfortunately, Ohaji causes chaos when she causes two Yakuza members to accidentally break a valuable antique, causing Kazuhiko to be furious but relents when Yaeka and Ohaji ask him to. He is then reminded of how Miyuki would have intervened whenever he was furious at Kirishima, where he also notices Yaeka looking exactly like Miyuki. Meanwhile, a dangerous man who has been spying on Kirishima states that he should not be stuck in the role of a parent, so he decides to do something about it. Afterwards, Kazuhiko orders Kirishima to produce videos with Sugihara, explaining that due to the changes in society, they need online media presence as they are struggling to make money. So he wants social media videos that will make the Yakuza more popular. He also demands that this be kept secret from the other Yakuza families, as admitting they need help gaining income would shame the family name. Afterwards, Yaeka notices Kirishima is quite upset, but in the end they create numerous videos under the name Team Cherry, portraying typical Yakuza activities as amusing pastimes. However, Sugihara becomes worried when other video makers start trying to discover their identities, so they post a video claiming that they are fake Yakuza who work for a film company, while apologizing for misleading their viewers, and thus stop posting new videos. Unfortunately, this backfires when their supposed honesty makes them even more popular. As such, Kazuhiko insists they start recording songs, which turns into a live concert, where they start appearing on television and even attending official functions to meet foreign royalty. Kirishima then becomes so busy that even he can't take Yaeka to and from school anymore, causing her to miss him. After awakening from a nightmare of neglecting Yaeka to become a pop star, Kirishima swears to never make another video again and returns to caring for Yaeka, even punishing Sujihara when he tries to show him another video. One day, the news that Kirishima is now a babysitter spreads, making some believe he is no longer the Sakuragi's demon like Yanaji, a lieutenant from Kusagami Yakuza. Regardless, on his day off, Kirishima bumps into his old classmate named Rei Hojo, who comments that he finally looks happy for once. Afterwards, Yanaji starts trouble at a restaurant owned by the Sakuragi family, where Kirishima and Hojo are out drinking, so Kirishima forces him to leave. Hojo is then surprised Kirishima restrained his usual temper. Meanwhile, Yanaji comes up with an idea for revenge against him. Later, Yaeka and Kanami run into Ayumu, and they invite her over to bake cakes back home. Subsequently, Kazuhiko asks Kirishima to call and book a table at the restaurant, but over the phone, Kirishima hears Yanaji back at the restaurant again. As such, Yanaji announces the Kusagami family has taken over the restaurant from the Sakuragi family, bragging that Kirishima is no longer a threat, causing Kirishima to show up where he easily beats up Yanaji. On his way home, Kirishima finally meets the dangerous man that has been spying on him, Yuri Mashiro, lieutenant of the Momoyama Yakuza, but ignores him and returns home where Yaeka has baked him a cake. Sujihara is then told to bury Yanaji and his friend up to their necks as punishment. Later, Mashiro approaches the buried Yanaji and his friend and is surprised Kirishima left them alive. It is then implied that Mashiro ended both men. The next day, Kirishima is reminded that it will be Yaeka's birthday soon, but he gets disappointed when she avoids the topic of her birthday. Nevertheless, on their way home, they meet Hojo, who informs Kirishima that Masaya Hanami, Kirishima's violent rival from high school, has finally been released from prison. Kirishima then learns that since Yaeka's mother entered the hospital, her birthdays have only been with Kazuhiko and Kanami, and because they are part of the Yakuza, she was never able to invite friends over. As such, unsure of what gift to get Kirishima, he decides to help Kanami with cooking for the party, since cooking is the only thing he remembers most about his own birthdays with his mother. At the park with Sugihara, Yaeka meets a young girl named Sarah, and they shortly become friends. Upon returning home, Yaeka discovers Sarah and her father Leon have moved in next door and are now coincidentally neighbors, so she invites them over to her birthday. However, to hide that they are part of the Yakuza, Kirishima poses as Kazuhiko's butler. Meanwhile, Leon has a very outgoing personality and insists he and Kazuhiko be friendly neighbors, which Kazuhiko is forced to agree to so he can keep up their charade of normalcy. After the party ends, Kirishima reveals he made omuris for Yaeka, as it was always his favorite birthday meal. Meanwhile, to celebrate leaving prison, Masaya decides to find and destroy the Sakuragi's demon.